And here is my lap book that I have made following instructions from Nik the Booksmith. And although she started off with 2 books which were already made, but I have made this cover using Eileen Hull's full journal die, and I've got a short piece at the end of this video showing how I did it. It's a very chunky book, really love it. It has a lot inside it, and as you will see, and so it opens out into 2 sides, and I'll show you the first side first. Now this is, I'm using it as an ephemera keeper for all my Tim Holtz bits and pieces, and I've used a lot of Tim Holtz papers to make this. Be warned, this does take a lot of paper to make, and I've also used some file folders to make additional bits and pieces. There's lots of little envelopes here. This is all following ideas from Nik the Booksmith. This particular file folder is cut in such a way that it's a fold over piece. It's got pockets on the front here for tags, and obviously a pocket here for small bits and pieces. This itself, the file folder, has got room in it for some largish envelopes for keeping bits and pieces in, and there's additional pockets here. On the back there's an envelope which I made to size to fit, and this has a magnet closure, but this is a really good size for keeping some of these bigger bits and pieces of ephemera. And then there are 2 pockets here which are, whether you can see them, they've got quite large gussets on them, and that allows you to put inside the pocket quite a lot of little bits and pieces. So those 2 sit behind each other like that. And then I actually made this to go that way, and then realized I wasn't going to get much in it, and I stuck it down before I really realized that it was actually going to interact with this pocket here. So in hindsight, I probably wouldn't do that again, but just only gluing together things at the top and bottom means that you're creating pockets all over the place, and I'm not sure I can get much in there, but we'll put that down to a learning curve. And so that's the first side. The second part of this side of the book is again making using manila folders to or file folders rather, to create this sort of flop book. I followed Nik the Booksmith's idea and joined everything with sellotape. I wasn't quite sure how that would work, but it seems to work quite nicely. This is a vellum pocket. I've started to use quite a bit of vellum in the book from this stage on because I really like the way you could see through it, and this is a good place to house some of these, keep some of these lovely paper dolls that I use a lot. There's a bit of room on the back here to create a nice pocket. This was a lovely bit of paper which I didn't want to use. I've used bits and pieces of stitching just to give it a little bit of detail. Again, there's another pocket here. I made them all to size. Once you know how to make a pocket like this, it's easy enough, and you can use your paper to the best of what you've got. Where sometimes if you cut a die, you lose a lot of the paper, but this is quite simple to make. Perhaps I'll do a tutorial on how to do that shortly. But just by sticking things down on 3 sides, it gives you additional pockets. This is just old music paper from a score that I had sitting in a cupboard. Got more vellum pockets here for little bits and pieces. I love the fact that you can see what's in it. Again, these were quite easy to make with just a gusset here, so that you've got a bit of depth in it, and then cutting an aperture and sticking the vellum at the back. I haven't decorated the pocket with anything. I quite like the way it's all sort of, everything sits in there and you can see it. Still got a page here that I haven't done anything with, so I probably will have an idea for something there at some point. The back of here is a really big pocket. I had this lovely piece of paper here, so managed to make a gusset pocket here for some of this bigger bits and pieces. if you want to sew things down or give a little bit of sewn edging, stitching needs to be done on the outside here. If you stitch it right the way through, you lose the gusset, as I found out. And then there's used another little piece of leftover file folder here to make another little pocket. And then the whole thing is stuck down on here. There's a piece underneath here, which I then covered with another bit of paper, which then makes another little folder here. This is all following Nik the Booksmith's ideas. She's got some super ideas for pulling things together and creating lots of different spaces. And then there's another little pocket here, just made out of little bits of paper that were left. And that's the first side of the book. This here is for, oops, it's not closing properly. Is for putting in perhaps another book, but I'm not sure I'll fit anything in there actually. And then this side, again, I've used different papers here. They're all Tim Holtz papers. I really like this pocket here, the vellum pocket, but I wish I'd made it a gusset pocket to make it a little bit easier to get things in and out. But again, I just cut a shape, rounded the edges, and cut an aperture out to put some acetate in. Now this is the front cover of another flop out book, which goes both ways. And again, this Nik the Booksmith, I followed everything, or her ideas. This time I used washi tape to join everything together. I thought I'd try something different. Some of these papers, I just thought that was just a lovely piece of paper, so I've decided not to put anything on there. I made another pocket here. Anything I had left that was a reasonable size, I've made a pocket out of it. Again, another gusseted pocket with a pocket on the front of it with more acetate on here. As you can see, I've got a bit hooked on using acetate for pockets, but it's nice to be able to see what's inside. When I say acetate, I think it's more vellum than acetate. It's got a, it's not parchment vellum or anything like that, but it's, I don't even know where I got it from. I've had it for years, but it's just nice. You can see through it, but it's solid enough to work with. And then here, I've made an envelope from a nice big piece I had left. And I put that on a piece here so that you can flop that out, and there's space to put some additional bits and pieces here. Again, this is all stuck down on this side with a flap that comes out here, so I've covered that again with a piece of paper, which then creates another opportunity for a pocket. And then I've used this Tim Holtz die to create another area for some little bits and pieces. So that's that side. And now as it opens the other side, this is an idea which came from Netty on her Netty's Journey YouTube channel, and she had made the same book and she had done this on one of her pages, and I just thought this was absolutely super. It's vellum strips which have been sewn in to this piece of card, and it's absolutely super for keeping all these little bits and pieces in. It's difficult to see. I've stuck the edges down so that it creates the pocket, but it's really is a lovely spot to keep all these little tiny little bits and pieces in, and you can see them, and they are in there nice and snug. I used some leftover file folders to make these pockets. I just felt I wanted to use up as much as I could. Again, they're gusseted on these edges here, and then I just rounded the corners and then put them together. I've done a little bit of decorating with some of these little bits and pieces of ephemera. But I'll put a link to Netty's YouTube channel under the video, because her book is really lovely too and gave me lots of ideas. And then finally, this is like a file folder. I've never made one of these before, and it's got a number of gussets in here, which means you can keep envelopes. It's a lovely place for some of these bigger cards. Got a couple of envelopes in here ready to fill. Even a little plastic bag full of some more little bits and pieces. doesn't need much more on this side because that's actually quite a big pocket, but that was a nice idea of Nik the Booksmith to put in this little bit here. She takes you through every little bit, and in half-hour segments, which is quite nice to actually follow and craft along. But I could certainly recommend having a go. So that's my book, and I've just covered it very simply with a Tim Holtz frame and photograph, and then just something in the middle of the spine here. It was great fun to make. I think it's going to be great fun to use, and as you will see in the next video, I'm starting to make another one. To make the covers for my book, I have used Eileen's full-size journal, Scoreboard Plus. It's a huge diet. It's cut almost A5 size, and I've cut 4 covers, one for the front and one for the back, and then a 3rd and 4th one for the insides here, which then fold out. As you can see, it makes it a very large book. For the middle spine, I have used 4 pieces of the spine. I've joined them together with tape before I then caught everything together under this Hessian bookbinding tape. And for the sides, I've used 2 pieces of that spine, and that gives me then enough room to have a good sized book on the outside of the spine, but also 2 good sized spines here as well for everything else that's going to go in it. I've covered everything with paper on both sides, and I've still got these Hessian pieces to cover. But this is a tip from Nik the Booksmith, is to make a piece like that to go in there, which you can actually put some eyelets in, and you could put elastic in there if you wanted to put a book in, and or just ties. I've just kept it as ribbon. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do there, and I think I'll probably do exactly the same for here to cover up these where I've had to join the Hessian because it wasn't wide enough. But I hope that gives you an idea of how I made the covers for the book.